He called me kiddo. That was the first red flag. In the corporate jungle of Andrix Global, where every handshake hit a dagger, kiddo wasn't endearing. It was condescension wrapped in familiarity. But at the time, I brushed it off. Because when you're a 29-year-old data analyst with a boss who wears tailored suits and smiles like he knows every secret in the room, you want to believe that mentorship still exists. His name was Ethan Voss, Director of Strategic Operations, magnetic, brilliant, and impossible to read. And he was the one who destroyed me. When it started, I thought I was just unlucky. An IT audit flagged my credentials as the source of a data breach. Confidential client reports copied and sent to an external server in Singapore. I remember staring at the email from compliance, the kind that makes your stomach drop before your eyes even finish reading it. Your login credentials were used to access restricted files outside business hours. Please report to HR and IT for an internal review. I sat frozen in my cubicle, my coffee cooling beside me. My fingers shook as I reread it, trying to process. I'd been at Andrix for 5 years. I'd never missed a deadline, never broken a policy, never so much as taken an extra pen home. Now they were accusing me of espionage. When I went to Ethan's office, he didn't look surprised. He gestured for me to close the door. "Sit down, kiddo. I heard about the audit." "I didn't do anything," I said, my voice cracking. He gave me a sympathetic nod, the kind bosses give right before they tell you your career is over. I know, but optics matter. Right now, compliance is under pressure from the board. They'll need a scapegoat. My pulse raced. So what do I do? "Keep quiet," he said. "Let me handle it." The way he said it was reassuring, too reassuring, like he'd already rehearsed it. The next week was a blur of interviews and humiliation. Compliance combed through my email history, HR suspended my system access, colleagues avoided eye contact like I was contagious. But Ethan, he was calm, supportive even. He told me to trust the process while subtly keeping his distance in meetings. That's when I started to suspect something wasn't right. When you work with data long enough, you start to think in patterns, timestamps, anomalies, digital fingerprints. And the more I replayed the incident, the less it made sense. If someone had used my login, they'd either need my credentials or access to my workstation. Except I hadn't logged in remotely that night. My keycard history proved it. So who had? The clue came from an accident. One evening, after I'd been unofficially benched, I returned to the office to collect my personal items. The floor was quiet, lights dimmed, that sterile hum of overnight servers echoing through the cubicles. Ethan's office light was on. I assumed he'd left it by mistake. He was at a conference in Chicago that week. Out of habit, I peeked inside. His computer screen was locked, but his monitor wasn't off. I could see the faint outline of a running background process. A data transfer window. The destination? A remote address. The same domain flagged in the breach report. My heart thundered. I snapped a photo before the monitor dimmed to black. That was my moment of clarity. He'd done it. He'd framed me. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I mapped everything. Timestamps, login sessions, file hashes. The digital breadcrumbs painted a perfect picture of manipulation. Ethan had created a mirrored user profile, mine, using admin privileges. He'd logged into restricted files under that alias, transferred data, then deleted the shadow account. And because his access level was higher than mine, the logs made it appear legitimate. It was genius. Cruel, but genius. The next morning, I walked into work like nothing had changed. Ethan was back from Chicago, coffee in hand, charming as ever. "Hey, kiddo, holding up okay?" "Yeah," I said, "just ready for this to be over." He smiled. "Good. HR said they're closing the investigation soon." I nodded, keeping my tone steady. Perfect. Because I'd already sent everything, every screenshot, every log, every trace, to the company's ethics committee, using an anonymous email routed through an encrypted relay. And to make sure it couldn't be buried, I copied the general counsel. It only took 48 hours. Two security officers entered the office mid-morning, walked straight to Ethan's desk, and quietly told him to stand. He didn't protest. He just looked confused. I watched from across the room as they escorted him out, the same walk I'd imagined for myself a week earlier. Everyone whispered. Nobody looked at me, but I didn't need them to. Later that afternoon, I was called into a small conference room with the head of compliance. She was polite but distant. "We received additional evidence regarding the breach," she said carefully. "It appears you were not responsible. Then who was?" I asked, feigning ignorance. She hesitated. "We can't disclose that during an ongoing investigation, but your access will be reinstated." I nodded. "Thank you." Inside, I felt both hollow and electric, vindicated but changed. Ethan's departure was swift and silent. Rumors swirled. Family emergency, contract termination, board dispute. No one dared mention data theft, but I knew. I'd seen the look on his face when they took his badge. Not shock, not anger, but realization. He knew I'd outplayed him. I thought that would be the end, but corporate revenge rarely ends cleanly. A month later, I received an unmarked envelope in the mail. Inside was a single USB drive and a note. "Thought you should know, you're not the only one he framed." The drive contained folders, dozens of them, tied to other employees. Fabricated evidence, fake reports, manipulated data. Ethan hadn't just been covering his tracks, he'd been systematically building leverage, insurance against anyone who might threaten him. I realized then how deep it went, the kind of quiet corruption that hides under polished surfaces and company slogans. And I had proof of all of it. I could have gone to HR again, or the ethics committee, but I'd learned my lesson. In places like Anderix, the system doesn't protect the innocent, it protects itself. So I did something better. Using a dummy account, I leaked the entire archive, every falsified report, every doctored file, to a reputable financial journalist. Within a week, the story broke. Data fraud scandal at Anderix Global, senior executives implicated in manipulated reporting. The fallout was immediate. The stock dropped 18%. 3 executives resigned. The board ordered an internal overhaul. And through it all, I stayed silent. I came to work, smiled, and did my job. Because revenge, I'd learned, isn't about shouting the truth. It's about letting your enemy's lies become their noose. One evening, I received a message from an unknown number. "You're good. Didn't think you had it in you. EV." I stared at the screen for a long time. No threats, no anger, just acknowledgement. I deleted it and turned off my phone. He was gone. But the shadow he'd left, that quiet paranoia, stayed. Years later, when I finally left Anderix, I took only one thing with me, a flash drive labeled Lessons. It contained every trace of what had happened, every document, every message, every scar of that year. I kept it not for revenge, but for remembrance, because the world I'd walked through taught me something about power, that it's not about who leads the room, but who survives it. And when I think of Ethan now, I don't think of the day he called me kiddo. I think of the day he realized the kid was the one holding the knife. I live differently now. Freelance work, small clients, honest hours. But sometimes, when the late-night hum of my laptop reminds me of those servers at Anderix, I catch myself smiling. Because somewhere out there, Ethan Voss is probably watching someone else's downfall, wondering if his own reflection might be next. And maybe, just maybe, he'll remember me, the quiet analyst who refused to be the victim of a story she didn't write.
You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.